This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such.
Are you serious? Like, we at season 7, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. Yeah, season 7. Magic number. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna go in depth with that, but yeah, this will be a very positive season. I don't know why and what's making me say that, but everything's changed. Everything is a lot different. I know the title you'll still see the podcast about sports and stuff, but yeah, I ain't gonna get no sports. I'm still, like I said, stuff is very fluctuating now. I found that the connection with things is to get people to talk, as well as me taking time to talk. So you'll notice it, especially when you hear the first few episodes of this season. But it's just about sitting down and just having good talk, good conversation. Pass the message. Y'all know they ain't going nowhere. If you know, you know. If you've been around for a while, you already know how we give it up. But just hang in there. The content's amazing. The moves are even more amazing. And just put yourself in the right headspace to get this information. So hope y'all enjoy. What's going on, y'all? We are officially at season 7 of The Pass. I say this, I know a lot of times people say things and it's like, okay, you saying it just to say it, but to really realize and to really reflect and to really think about the simple fact that nearly, if not 7 years ago, I was just starting off with podcasting, and now we're still doing shows. I'm still creating. Ironically, I had a friend of mine who I talked to yesterday, and we're pushing to talk. Well, we're talking and getting something set up to possibly get him on the show, and I'm in shock, but I'm in shock in a good way. Let me make sure I don't want to downplay what is. I'm just pointing it out as it's very eye opening. Just thinking of, I would say, season 3 or season 4, I had a co-host. I would say the last few years, I've had more guests come on. If you all have not listened, episode 360, I had probably one of my first all men, and most importantly, all black men podcasts, where we just kind of had like a roundtable discussion, and that was pretty amazing. Promoted, to help someone with promoting a book. Just kind of doing like a reflection. Just really thinking about where the podcast has been, where it's going, and just what we're working on. I had my friend Maisha come on the show. It was her second go round. Looking forward to that being like a push for her to get her recording up and running. Just good things, big things, and it's, to say that we're still here is just eye opening. Before I get into any of my stuff, like I have a list of topics that I want to talk about. I do want to take time, and I'm going to share the link on my podcast as well. Cause I did mention, I was given the option, and this is how you learn how to create and link with fellow creators and fellow, tech innovators. A friend of mine, Joseph, had me on as a guest on his show where I talked about my journey into tech. And, as soon as I saw the upload, I'm sitting there watching it, and I was like, it's almost like that moment when you're a kid and it's like, look, that's me talking. That's me giving, this information. What made that so eye-opening is I was getting a lot of gems even as I was talking and going back and listening to it. I won't give too much personal, but I will share some context in the aftermath, because a lot of people have and did say that they will listen to it. So I'm looking forward to that. Most importantly, I have one of my friends who has known me forever and a day, who is trying to get into tech, and we had like the big bro little sis convo of like, all right, if this is what you're trying to do, here's the playbook, here's the way that I did it. And I want this to be clear, even as I shared it in the video, and I've talked to people personally in saying this. You do not have to do the school route to get the foundation. The foundation comes from what you personally are open to learning. And people, like I gave someone one suggestion about YouTube University, or just going on YouTube and looking up stuff. But you also have resources and you have options under Udemy, Coursera, Skillshare. Those 3 programs or applications alone give you some resources as well. Now you may pay, but I always unpack this and explain it as such. The return on investment you can't recreate. I have a friend of mine who at the beginning of last year, he got his notary. He and I did ours like right around the same time, got it all squared away, got sworn in the same day. And a couple months after that, it was Scrum time. He was working on Scrum and being Scrum Master. And he talked to me about it. And what's so interesting is he and I worked with each other at a company I won't name, but he's still working there. And when I first started with the company, one of my managers literally sat down with me and talked about Scrum Master. She's a Scrum Master. And I was, I think that was where the antennas went off about tech at the time. But even more eye-opening, I even think about the simple fact that I was open to doing it then, and then everything went everywhere, and I really didn't put my best foot forward. And I've had some assessments about that in the last few weeks. Shout out to my sister Nisha, who she's getting her podcast rolling again, and this time we will have the more uplifting and more productive mindset on knocking it out. So I have no concerns on her getting what she needs to get done. Random update too, I just turned on my ring light that I just ordered, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. Well, among many other topics that I have. So since I've recorded the last show, I was able to get a vacation in. When I went on a vacation, I hung out with my friends. We got to do MagFest, kick it, catch up, live life. Gave them some updates that they weren't aware of, and it also was able to give me an opportunity to not only relax, but to get my focus back. And I definitely can say a fair amount of, as I would call them, is that executive decisions were being made or began to be made along the way. And I'm laughing at this part of it because it's just literally like divine, like perfect timing. So I ordered a bullet journal, and to give you all the layman's breakdown without going into an extreme amount of detail, I've probably talked about the bullet journal on my podcast before. However, the bullet journal was created by Ryder Carroll, and it is a way of saying, okay. And I'm saying this on my show because I want people to understand where I'm at about this. Passion planners are great. The happy planner is great. I think those are amazing, awesome planners. Do not take this the wrong way, ladies. There aren't too many good planners that are created for men or with men in mind. Because for most men, I can't speak for all, but I know at least from my aspect, I'm a task-based person. The bullet journal gives that task-based feel and that minimalist design and aura to it. So mainly, if I'm sitting down and I'm like, all right, what am I going to work on today? Like today, normally by this point of the day, I would have already done my bullet journal, but I got up and I was like, I want to go ahead and get this recording done. But once I'm finished, I got a list of things that I'm going to do. I got a list of stuff that I want to knock out, because before I blink, this evening at 8:00, I'm going to the gym. So I wanted to be sure that I did that. I share the bullet journal aspect because around this time last year, I was like, okay, I'm going to try digital. I'm going to get an iPad, which I still use my iPad. I don't want to seem or sound like, okay, I got the iPad and it was a waste of money. No, it's definitely not a waste of money because it is a useful tool, useful resource that I use very frequently and very often. But I was trying to do all my planning, my task management, my journaling. I was doing all of it through the iPad. There are pros and cons to that. And it works if you have that routine for it to work, right? The dilemma was there are certain things, if I'm in a space that I need to really get something out, pen and paper, it literally falls under the infamous phrase or the infamous category of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's truly what bullet journaling introduced to me. And I got kind of the foundation reestablished. And what I mean by that, or why I say that, is because a few weeks before I got back to bullet journaling, I went back to my journal. I had a journal that I was keeping for a good while. And I just kind of was like, oh, I'm not going to keep the journal. I'm going to start, I found good notes. I went on Etsy and found like a nice journal that I could do. It had every day, all the days already preset as links. You just select the date. And then once that date comes up, you start writing, which it worked at times. But then it was it just didn't work how I needed it to, especially when I needed to get some thoughts out. I've gotten introduced to, and this before, I almost want to say not long after I did episode 360, I got introduced to Morning Pages, which I have a book by the creator of Morning Pages, and it's a full series of different things that she's giving, like from an artist perspective. And that was one of the things she talked about, is you get up, you journal, you write it, you make it your goal to write 3 pages worth of journaling. And I actually got introduced to this by someone who, and this, like I said, this planning thing and this organizing and the journaling, it's gotten a lot deeper because I was able to get 3 accountability partners for journaling. And it's ironic because right before I was getting ready to record this show, 2 of them who I hadn't heard from in a while had reached out to me and was just like, hey, I'm just checking with you. I know I've been busy. Hey, I know I've been away for like the past week, but I'm good. Like, I just want you to know I'm working, or I had kind of ran into a snag with life, and we all go down that road. So I 100% get that. But I to swing back to bullet journaling, because I know I mentioned what it does, but not really its full format. Bullet journaling basically gives you, like, the foundation of it. There are 4 key parts. There's your future log. There's your index, your future log, your intentions, and then your actual logging of everything that you're doing. So a lot of people utilize it for habit tracking. Habit tracking is the most known that you'll see it be used for. So I'm opening mine now so I can kind of give you context. There's the key, which it gives you the main ones that they provide by default. Then you can create your own. It gives you plenty of space to do that. Your intentions, which I have an intense amount of intentions that I want to work on. My index, and then my future log, which that's about 4 pages. And then I start with the month, and it's how it's set up now, because what Bujo did, what Ryder Carroll decided to do, was the first edition of his book he wiped out, which I'm okay with that. And it gives you the second edition, which he kind of, it was priced at a very affordable price, under $30. And in the book, it gives you the stickers for each month. So for instance, for January, you just put January on both pages. It's already got like the January gold lettering set up. And then on the side, on the left page, you would put all the dates from the first to whatever the end of the month is. And then next to it, whatever day of the week that starts on. So in my case, the first was a Sunday. So I started it off with Sunday, and then the rest of the days followed. Because the default start number or start day of the week for the stickers is Monday. But you just want to make sure you have it formatted. So if you need to cut, a couple days in advance, it might be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or and there's different ways you can do it. You can be creative and be smart about it. I think I know what I'm going to do next year, next month, which is whatever day of the week it starts on. If it's not Monday, which it would be Wednesday. So when it starts on Wednesday, I'm just going to cut Monday and Tuesday off the next one, start on Wednesday, and then Wednesday will line up with the first and go from there. And you can use it. Some people use it to log whatever important dates they need to for the month. I found I've used that as my reflection space now, and that's worked to my advantage. So that's kind of a overview without going into like intense detail of bullet journaling. That's at least the starting point. And then, like I said, each day you write down the day of the week. So today, for instance, would be 1/16, and then you'd put M for Monday, or you can put MON. It doesn't matter. And then you put dots. You would put a dot and whatever the task is. If it's a note, you put a line, put whatever the note is. If it's an event, you can place, it's another symbol for it, and you would just place those accordingly. What I might do, which will be different, is I'll set the background image as the bullet journal key, just so that way you'll kind of get an idea. But yeah, I'm so far, like my week one experience with it, which I did talk about on my blog, minor promotion but relevant nonetheless. Brate1982.wordpress.com, returned back to where it all started, and got some thoughts out about my first week with bullet journaling, and kind of like the backstory that led me to where I'm at with it this year. And I think what's interesting is this is probably going to be the first year that I'm not going all out with, I'm going to design all this stuff for the week, and I'm going to do weekly spread. I'm not doing any spreads this year. I refuse. The spreads are convenient, don't get me wrong, but for relevance and for simplicity of just getting what I need to get knocked out, I need to just start tasking and utilizing the space. Because a lot of times what I'm doing is, let's say I find a video on YouTube talking about whatever. If it's information being given in that video, usually it's going in my bullet journal. I'm using my bullet journal more than my brain dumping notebook. But yeah, so back to basics. Handwritten journaling, bullet journaling by hand. Like I said, I tried bullet journaling digitally, wasn't it? I think the bullet journaling in the digital form is a little extreme, but it's also, well, let me not say that, excuse me, backtrack. I want to be clear. Bullet journaling digitally benefits those who are artists and want to really like spruce and go all out. I always tell people this when it comes to bullet journaling because it's relevant to add. If you're starting out with bullet journaling, there are two things I would recommend you doing. One, if you can find a copy of it, or if you talk with me, I'm willing to give my copy to, or I can help you get a copy of the book. That's not an issue, but read Ryder Carroll's book called The Bullet Journal Method, and it will give you some very key points and resources and things to get started with reading. Number two, and most importantly, now in his book, he goes over the basics, the foundations, and then near the end, he goes into the more detailed, more physical, more high-end level of bullet journaling, where you have like the weekly spreads, the monthly spreads, the covers where people will color, like, make different colored covers, things of that nature. Like I have a set of Staedtler pens, which I'm going to talk about pens in a moment, and they're all different colors. And I also have the 6-pen set. Anyone that does any type of artwork knows about the pens where you have like the 0.05 tip, the 0.5, 0.3, 0.01. I'm freestyling the numbers, so I might be a little off, but they know those size of pens, and each one is they're usually like Micron. Micron has a brand, Statler has a brand. The Statler set that I bought, I've had mine now for, I want to say 3 or 4 years. I want to say it's been about 3 years at least, and I use those from time to time as well. But I definitely can say that the tasking process has been way different, but way more productive. In buying the bullet journal, I wish I had bought it as a set, but I think I was just kind of like, oh, I'm not sure. I went back on their site. It's a little pricey, but I went and got the bullet journal, and I'm gonna mispronounce this, so do not turn into like grammar police on this one. The Dre Griffel, which is it's a pen that brings about the importance of beauty in writing, and it's a very minimalist pen. It was designed in Germany and New York City. It is a gel pen, so it has gel ink. You can get refills for the pen in ballpoint. I will say, so far since using this pen, what I like the most about it is the fact that when I write on pages in the bullet journal, and I almost want to say on any page in general, for the most part, it's pretty good with quick dry. And this is something I never paid any attention to because, let's be clear, I am left-handed, but in school I was taught to write right-handed, which a lot of people still get mind blown when I tell them that. But I did learn, I attempted to write left-handed, and it was no dice on that. But for people who write left-handed, when you're writing across a page, the worst thing you can have happen is, as you're writing, you don't want what you're writing or what you've written to smear in the book. And another 2% factor about bullet journaling that's important, and which version of a bullet journal book that you buy is key, because you'll then have which I had never heard of this before I started doing bullet journaling, but the weight of the page, or how thick the page is. The bullet journal, I believe the pages are 120 GSM. I'm not gonna sit here and try to freestyle the meaning of it right off my head. But it does have to do with the depth and the thickness of the page, because that will play a part in if you're writing with certain pens. Will or does the pen bleed? Things of that nature. Like, that's stuff that you're not really gonna think about. Let's see. Of course, I'm gonna look for this. So GSM is referring to grams per square meter. The higher the GSM, the heavier and thicker the paper. So if the page, like I said, if the page is 120, 180, you could almost write with a Sharpie, and it won't go through that's the main intent. Like, if I were to use, which I don't use it in my bullet journal, but some people do, like if you were to do Sharpies to draw different things, or you were using like a certain highlighter, it's not going to highlight through the page. So that's where that becomes important. But with the bullet journal pen that they sell on their site, it is a pen that's part of what's called and y'all are probably like, this is the most high level nerding stuff to start with for the new year, but it is part of a brand or part of a company called Lectrum 1917. So the original bullet journal, if you look at the back of the bullet journal, it has that name. And then the pen itself, the pen on the side of the pen, it has that name as well. So that's kind of like the name convention. Like, that's the origin of the notebook. And then Writer Carol mainly put the bullet journal reference on the front. Like I said, I have my bullet journal that I bought last year. I want to say I started on it for probably like a week or two. And then I was like, I'm going to go digital. Digital's going to be the way. And digital was the way for a while. But I found that as I was working through it, when I got up to about November, December, I was like, I think it's time to go back to what worked. And like I said, this year it's been handwritten journaling and Bujo vibes all the way. So you will see, and it should be coming in the mail this week. You will see my bullet journal in its little small not attaché case literally, but a little small neoprene case to, protect the book and also hold my, pens that I'm going to likely be using with the bullet journal, as well as I call it my designer starter set, which is the Staedtler colored pens and the Staedtler pigment ink options. I did talk about this already, or I mentioned it a little bit. I just got introduced to the term or the reference of oil-based pens. So there was a pen on Amazon that I did some research just online in general, and I found this pen that was like a oil-based pen, which I thought was a good writing. I'm like, all right, let's see what this is about. I want to try it out and see what it's about. And it's by Uniball, which I didn't know until I ordered these, that Uniball and Mitsubishi are involved with one another. And long story less long, it came with it has like a default, like a roller ball, or I'm sorry, a ballpoint pen that you would use for this pen. The thickness of the pen tip, so most pens, anyone who buys typical pens have seen 0.5 or 0.7. If you've been using Pilot Precision forever and a day, their two numbers you're going to constantly hear are V5 or V7. V5 is a little thinner or medium fine, extra fine. V7 is a fine, but it's a lot thicker. If you write with a V7 across words. If you write with a V7 in certain books or with pieces of paper that have like a much lower depth, you will definitely notice a difference in how they write on paper. And I was trying to find the other one, but of course, when you're trying to look for something, you can't find it. That's normally how it goes. But yeah, so it's the precise V5. The V5 is extra fine. The V7 would be the fine. And I've probably used the Pilot Rolling Ball Precise since I would almost say like well over 25 years. Like, I'm not even being funny. I think every true writer at some point has bought or circled back to buying that level of pen because of the connection behind it. But yeah, I bought the Uniball pen, and when I bought it, I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get refills just in case it runs out. Well, the refills that I ordered were too large for the barrel or for the size of this pen. Again, this is all like nerdy stuff. So if this is like, oh, Brian, I didn't expect you to start 2023 with this, but here we are. But the barrel for it they're too large, and they were also rollerball. So I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with these? Enter Jetstream. Jetstream is a site that basically gives you the best and the most convenient options for pens, pen refills, pencils, all your stationery needs. It's basically a stationary one-stop shop. Like if I wanted to get I'm not going to pronounce it. If I wanted to get the pen that I got from Bullet Journal, I'm not going to try to pronounce it again because y'all not coming for me. If I wanted to get that particular pen and look for it on their site, it's a strong chance they have that pen on their site. If I wanted to look for the notebook, you can buy the notebook without the Bullet Journal branding on it, and still, it'll be a decent amount, but it's well worth it. Because somewhere in this, I talked about everything else, but I didn't say the other factor. The other big factor with bullet journaling also is that it's a dotted line notebook. So when people see it, they're like, well, it's just a bunch of dots and boxes. Like, what's the big deal? But when you see it come together, it's beneficial for a lot of people. Like I said earlier, when it comes to the art factor, you get to, if you measure. So with this model, with the newer edition 2, when you first open the book, it has kind of like a graph that breaks down like your x-axis and your y-axis. So your x, and sorry, I'm about to go into math, so if you're not a fan of math, your vertical going up and down in layman's terms, it's 37 points, 37 dots vertically. And then from left to right or horizontal, it is 25. And they have like little key mark points to tell you like, hey, this is the halfway point. Or if you're doing, like when I did my future log, it had 2 marks that I could use for that, as far as like how to mark up the book, and it made it very convenient with designing. Another thing I got introduced to with that, and I know I said I wasn't gonna go back to it, but I may as well, is if you're just starting out with bullet journaling and you're a perfectionist, do not try to just do it with a pen. Get a pen, buy a pencil, or invest in like a inexpensive pencil and erasers combination. That way, if you make some mistakes, you can go back and clear it up before you officially put what you're putting. I think I said, and I want to rotate back because I think I said one of the points, but the other point that's important is to not get sucked into the Pinterest community with bullet journaling, because it will, if you're a first timer, it will overwhelm you, because you'll look at all that and you're like, I need to do mine like this, and it's like, no, you want to do the minimal and do the simple part first, because the main point of doing it, to go back to the beginning of it, is you want it to be convenient for tasking out and planning your day. If you're not using it to that resource or in that benefit, then you're not going to get your full usage out of it. And I was talking about the pen. Like I said, I bought the refills. The refills didn't fit. They were also a 0.38 thickness. But I did realize that I went on Jetstream. I learned the different pens that the refill I have are compatible with, and I happen to have one of those pens, which is the Pentel Energel Liquid Gel ink. Now on the pen it's going to say 0.7, but if you click it, it's definitely, you can see the difference that it's a 0.38, and I've used it so far. I would probably say this pen might be one of the quickest. Like it's a rollerball pen, but it dries pretty quick, not gonna even lie. So that is the best 30-minute spiel that I can give on pens and tech and like non-tech stuff, and make it be a thing. So let's see. The last few weeks, so I took, and a lot of people, I've learned something, and this is something that's very key for people when you're doing this. No one's obligated, and you do not need to announce that you're taking a social media break. Brian, why are you sharing this, and what makes this so important? Well, I've realized over time that if you need to take a break, just take a break. Like when you go to work, and I'm using this as an example, but it's valid to what we're talking about now. If you are working your job and you take a break, no one needs to hear from you, hey, I'm going to take a break. Either they can look in the system and see that you took a break, or depending on if you're working directly around people, will see that you took a break. So it's evident and clear that, all right, they're on break. Cool. That's why a lot of times whenever you take a break, it needs to be take a break, get away from where you are. But in social media world, a lot of times people will say, man, social media is too much for me. It's a lot going on. I can't deal with all this. I need to unplug and I need to take a break. I had I think I was going into that conversation earlier, where when I uploaded a video, one of my friends who's known me for a while, she reached out and wanted, really pushing the idea and the space to get into tech. And then I had someone else who had been on a break away from social media and happened to get online and happened to see the post that I shared and she went to the video. She saw the video and she reached out and was like, I'm trying to find a career change. And the fact that I came back and I saw this video was like right on time. And when I saw that, it really made me like, I really don't think we understand the power of how heavy our content can be when shared or presented to others. And it really hit me where I'm like, I need to utilize my space more. I need to utilize my platform more. So it was a very big eye opener from my end, if nothing else. But like her and I talked. I gave her some tools, some resources. I gave her some simple but uncomfortable homework, and hopefully that will be able to get her in tune with like getting in touch with the right people to get the right position to go where she's trying to go and do what she's trying to do. Because at the end of the day, and people think that some of us say this just to say it, but I'm one of those ones that I stand behind it. I really want to see my people win. And I think why I really want to see my people win is because I know people who know me that want to see me win just as much. So I'm always about, it's literally been a reference and a idea of just paying it forward and putting the things in place to make sure that it gets paid forward and the business gets handled or the damage is done. My wallpaper on my computer right now says job's not done. Like, until I'm getting the folks in the space to get where they trying to get to, then we still working. And that's kind of been the main push. I ping-ponged with this idea. I didn't talk about it too much, but anyone who uses Apple, we use reminders. If you are bougie and you have that ability, and let me backtrack. I'm sorry. If you have your personal preference, you use Things 3. I've used Things 3. I like Things 3. It's not a bad application. I've been in limbo about it because I used it but wasn't using it like I should. And then I went back and got introduced to reminders again since the updates. So I've kind of latched myself back to reminders. Now what's become interesting is, because I'm reading a book now called Level Up. Once I finish that book, I'm reading Getting Things Done. And I think I've said this before, Getting Things Done is going to likely put me in a position of figuring out which one I'm going to commit to. But right now, Reminders has been working. I've been using Reminders. Reminders is basically a digital version of what I do in bullet journaling. Plain and simple. But I do like it so far since I've returned back to using it. And it's been helpful with taking care of tasks. It's just a matter of adding tasks in and making sure that I'm utilizing it to its full potential. Because your routine, your everyday tasks like journaling, meditating, reading, exercising, those things are cool. But then it's adding in the other stuff and making sure like, okay, I'm going to put this stuff in here so I can see it as, all right, I need to do this. Because if I don't do it, then it won't get done. And getting things to integrate. Android, don't think I'm forgetting y'all, because I'm not. And I say this because I really want it to be clear. One of, if not my favorite applications that I used, I always tell this story. When I was doing coding, I used Google Tasks. And I personally will say Google Tasks might be one of my favorite applications. Because you literally can make a list for anything. And it's not overly complicated because the list can all be separate. And once you finish something, you check it off, it's gone. You can go back to see what you already had completed. And you want to delete what you completed, you can clear it. It's all very, very simple. And it's the crazy part about it is a lot of people have Gmail or a lot of people have Google accounts and don't use half of the applications. Like I would say in the last month, I got introduced to Forms, mind blown. I knew about forums. I realized the importance of forums, but using a forum in a real life, real world setting, whole different dynamic. So wanted to make sure I talk about that as well. I mentioned earlier, like I said, took a social media break. I did another break. I was like, my initial plan was I was going to take a break last week. And when I said, all right, I'm taking a break, I'm stepping back. My agenda or my goal was, all right, I'm going to take a break and then I'll come back at the beginning of February. And that lasted for like a couple days. But I think the time that I took away made me value coming back, but coming back in like a different aspect. And my friend Nish and I, we talked about this yesterday. It comes down to, if you're using a platform, you want to use the platform for benefit, not the platform. You know, you're online, you're spending 8, 9, 10 hours a day on social media, but more is getting consumed from you than you consuming anything from it. And that's where it becomes like, all right, we got to find, like, as people, we have to put ourselves in that position of remembering, like, all right, we got to find the happy medium. What's truly the happy medium? What's the sweet spot for this? And then acting upon that accordingly. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that I'm beginning to realize is way more important than anything else. Ironic that yesterday I had my accountability session with my friend, and the first thing I was telling her, well, I gave her like different tidbits, and one of the tips that I always tell people with podcasting is drink water. I've recorded for 39 minutes, and that was the first time I had a sip, and I'm like, Brian, you're not even following your own rules, bro. Like, what's going on? So the last, I guess you could say, 3 months, I've been working out. Before anybody starts, yes, it probably doesn't look like it, but I have been working out, and it's an adjustment by far. I've been getting better with health in small ways. More importantly, I think the biggest thing, and I've said this to people before, like, MagFest was a test of it, but also just life in the last few days, I've really started to notice it. Things that I normally would do, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so out of breath, I'm tired. Now when I'm working or walking or moving, it's like I can functionally breathe. And I don't know about anybody else, but that has been probably the most smallest, biggest win that I can say I've experienced in the workout journey. Is just finding that way to regain control of breathing and regain control of simple body movement. And like I said, with anything, there's always a ways to go. There's always room for growth. There's always opportunity to build upon. But I'm definitely excited and glad as to where the journey is taking me. I'm not, because, you know, a lot of times it's like, oh, I'm trying to lose 300 pounds. Not 300 pounds, but I'm trying to lose a lot of weight. I'm trying to get back to my high school. No, I'm trying to get back to a controllable state where it's not as out of control, but I'm also able to fulfill and enter in the proper habits, which I keep saying the word habits, and then I keep looking over these books because, as I've told you all before, there's a trifecta that I'm working on, which is Level Up, which is taking forever because of the practical parts, what I'm probably going to do is write down the different exercises, write down what they ask you to do, not be pressed to try to fill out what they are, and finish the book, because then I have Getting Things Done, which I think will be a huge game changer, and of course Atomic Habits. Everyone has talked about Atomic Habits. Every year people talk about books to read for the year. Atomic Habits always comes up as a book, so definitely looking forward to that. And then I also have a book that I personally need to hop on, which I have that written on my board, which is called Tame Your Gremlin. I started to read it. I was attempting to use Kindle's feature of doing like the audiobook version of it, and then after a while I was like, I'm good. I'm gonna just work on reading it, like take a lot of time and read it, because I personally am not a fan of trying to do an audio version of a book and still do other things and think that I'm gonna retain the information, especially if it's a book that has like very pivotal, intense, beneficial information that can help you with development and betterment. Not even taking that chance. So something that I'm thinking about with that. All right. So Joe had me on Get Smart, on the Get Smart University. And when I first talked with him, it's so funny, like thinking about how like everything was full circle. The first time I came, I was on his show. We attempted to do the video, the audio, everything. Some stuff got clipped for various reasons. And when we finished, his exact words were, hey, it wouldn't. It's always good to invest. Just looking to getting a ring light. And so when he said it, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll look into it. I'll see what it's about. And so I have this light stand that I use from time to time, but I don't use. But it's a good like source of, hey, I just need a little bit of light and I'm okay. But then I got a ring light, and let me tell you. Now I know a lot of people gonna think you're a guy. What do you need a ring light for? If you're doing a lot of videos or you're doing a lot of content or you're gonna be on camera a lot, it's a worthwhile investment. A couple years ago, I got one as a gift for someone. Fingers crossed they use it 9 times out of 10 based on where things are. They probably threw it in trash, but whatever. It is what it is. But I went out, and the good part about it is the controls are directly on the ring, so I don't have to worry with like looking, oh, where is this at? I can't get to it. It's not working. What I'm able to do, which I like, is it's USB. Like, you just plug in any USB. So I have a hub. I'll plug it into the hub from time to time. I have a small little brick. I will use that power brick to plug it into the wall. And it runs like it stays. It's not like it's a timer. It's gonna go off. It stays on as long as it's powered on or plugged in. And I personally have grown to love the ring light ability, especially at night. Like if at night I want to read or if I want to journal, I can just set it up. And also because I have like the ability to like get the light to tilt forward, you can have it kind of as an overhead lamp a little bit, which I'm a big fan of. Ironically, and I think I talked about it on the year in review. If not, I'll talk about it now. 2023's theme, Shine Bright Like a Diamond. Most of last year, I kept being reminded, and it kept being clear that I'm a fan of natural light. I like, don't get me wrong, lights are cool. Like if you want to have on like a full blown turn on all the lights in the room, that's fine. But give me natural light, or the less light to use, more resources, the better. So like when T-Mobile about a month ago, they were giving away the free selfie light. When I found that online, I was like, oh yeah, let me hop on this. And when I went and picked it up, I was like, just the minimal use of it before even plugging it in and giving it a full charge, I was like, this is about to be a game changer for a lot of people, and they don't even know it if they were able to get it. But yeah, the ring light, love it. The one I have, it has 6 settings for the color. If you need, depending on your skin, depending on your background, depending on different factors. And you can also, once you set it on that particular color or hue, you can then lower the brightness, or you can heighten it if you need it to be fully bright. Even at its lowest brightness, it's still a pretty good amount of light, not gonna lie. And it comes with the tripod. Yesterday, I almost was a little alarmed because I had opened the tripod a little bit, but one of the legs was near me, and like when I was reaching for something, the leg, like, it popped, and it was like the not the actual tripod leg, but like on the bait, when you're trying to lower and heighten the main base of making it, getting it to be its full height, one of the little legs had like popped, and I was like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna go back in place. And then when I looked at it, I was like, it's not broke. It just needs to snap back in place. As soon as I snapped it back in place, I was like, oh yeah, this is about to be a game changer. And it comes with a case. It came with a camera. It came with a phone holder. So if you, regardless of what phone you have, it'll hold your phone. And the thread on the ring light and on the stand will allow it so that you can plug in. You can just rotate your phone, the stand on there, and it'll fit. I also got a camera shutter, which I gave the camera shutter away for a couple reasons because I don't really need camera shutters like that, along with the fact that I bought another version of a ring light or a ring stand. It's an overhead ring stand or overhead light stand that a lot of people, I had seen people talking about it, but I was like, I want to get my own and see what this is about. And I'm glad I did, because it's going to really make an impact, which I'm going to use this within the next week or two to do a review on a couple of pins that I have and sharing my thoughts of, I talked about the pins a little bit earlier, but really doing like a deep dive of each pin, what you see, what you're going to like, what you're not going to like, stuff like that. But all of that being said, that stand is huge because it came with a remote where you can control the, if you're doing video or recording, it'll give you the option to record and stop or take a photo and things of that nature. And it also has two buttons. It has another pair of buttons where you can adjust like powering on the lights, because there's a light, an overhead light. There's a light where if you're looking down on whatever you're looking at, then it will give you the ability to adjust how bright or how dim that is. And it also has one on the top that if you want to turn, you can pretty much use that stand as like a portable selfie stand and not even need like an actual tripod and all that, which I think is huge for a lot of people who they're like, hey, I'm in an area and I just want to get good lighting. You got your own lighting with you. And I think that's very underrated or undervalued tool or resource. So I want to talk about that. I don't know why. Like I literally put it in my book and I was like, ring light, like but for real, I've found personally that the ring light has been a huge and a helpful game changer, hands down. So I'm making my goal to use it every chance I can, and so far so good. Let's see. All right, so I have this is going to be a storage. This is kind of be like, so I'm going to talk about this. This is actually something tech related, but something that's relevant to address. And it's ironic because my friend put this status and she said, not sure if any of this is useful for your pod, but you're more than welcome to go for it. So I'm going to share the info. Like I said, I'm not going to share the person because out of respect. But I'm gonna read the status, and then we're gonna talk about some useful, teachable yet valuable things involving this. So she had a phone to kind of give like the backstory without going into major detail. She was having an issue with her phone. She got the phone fixed, and when the phone got fixed, it was a kind of a chaotic trouble or struggle with getting them to fix it the way they need to. I'm hoping I can find the other article phone died completely today, so that's great. Currently arguing with Samsung Chat to replace it. And so we had a back and forth about it, and I joked with her. I was like, who's the loudest in the chat? And we kind of had like a nice little dialogue about that. And then she shared a status and was like, all right, update on the phone. Phone is back and repaired. Most of my old stuff was backed up in the cloud services. The cloud services is going to be key to this, and you'll see why in a moment. So I didn't really lose anything. It was just putting everything back on the phone. Has the free account backup for Samsung, but it's not 100%. Lost about a month of text. Use another app for text and call backups, which there are some good backup texting apps that are resourceful. SMS backup and restore, and have it set to an automatic backup on Google Drive every day around 8 a.m., which is very convenient. If you're an Apple user, and this is why I love tech talk with people, because when you're open-minded in tech talk, you don't go, well, Android doesn't have this, or you can only do it with Apple. Like when I did the information earlier about reminders, yes, I talked about reminders. Yes, I talked about things, but I know Google Tasks is one of a good task-taking app. So I don't like deny or disregard like the Android realm. And it's the same with my friend who shared her status. She's an Android user, but she gives you the aspect of like Apple. So I want to make sure I'm talking about this as well. If you're an Apple user, iCloud gives you 50 gigs of storage for 99 cents a month. Totally worth it, as this should cover your calls, texts, documents. Just make sure to set up automatic backups. Very important. For pics, Amazon Photos. Prime gives you free unlimited photo storage. Most of y'all probably have Prime and don't even know this. Video storage does cost extra. Also use Google Drive a lot since it works on both Android and Apple. So I pay $2.99 a month for 200 gigs so that could take care of videos. You can also make sure to do a manual transfer to external storage. But the point of this is to try and save yourself from headaches when unexpected failures happen. So, let me give some context, because I know I read that very quickly, but I also want to give the full rundown about this. With your devices, you don't want to trust the device to do all the work. AWS is a real thing, which is, in layman's terms, Amazon Web Storage. The cloud is the internet's saving grace. Apple has the same process with the iCloud, which I would not be surprised runs on AWS. I could be wrong, but just slow walk with me a little bit on this one. iCloud, the 99-cent option is perfect for what you're, based on what you're using or how much data you need. Now, the ironic part with the 50 gig, because I can relate to this, because I got pulled in on a very interesting whim with the storage options, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. And I didn't even realize that they gave me this setup, but I ain't even mad. I have currently 400 gigs of iCloud storage, and how that was set up is my subscription is I have the Apple One package. The Apple One package includes let me make sure I get this right. It comes with 70 plus. I have access to Apple Music. I have access to Apple TV. I have access to Apple Arcade. And I get 200 gigs of storage with that alone. Right? But then I also have the $2.99 that I'm paying a month just for the 200 gigs of another 200 gigs of storage. And I don't know if Apple may or may not notice it. And if they hear this and I don't have it anymore, I'll update y'all. But as of right now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So having 400 gigs of storage has been very helpful between photos, between text messages. Like on my phone, I'm probably one of the most backwards people because I actually I have text messages or text threads from probably 2021, if I'm being honest. Because I want to say, yeah, because I got this phone in 2021. From the time that I first owned this phone, I have all those text threads. And because it's cloud-based, it probably even has them further back. She mentioned it in her post, and I've used it. I was using Google Photos for a while. Google Photos is the bomb. Like I think Google Photos, if you're saving a lot of stuff, is very helpful. The interesting thing is, and this is going to be an Apple Android comparison that's very valid. I don't think as many people take screenshots on Android as they do on iPhone. And I'm not saying that throwing shots at all, because it's not where I'm at about it. I think I've seen it be more used in an Apple environment. And because you're taking a lot of screenshots take up storage. Now, any of my friends who are Android or Samsung users, we can talk about it, and I want to, that way we can all learn and give me a better clarification, because The storage and the space is gonna be your biggest X factor, if nothing else. My bad. I'm looking at my screen and I was like, all right, it was having like a little glitchy moment, but also my computer's at that living this life like it's golden too. So, yeah, just take care of what you like. Make sure before you hit the panic button about, oh, I'm going to lose everything. Take time and really look to see what could be lost or what may end up happening, because you might get everything to be restored and not even know it. And most of the companies, between the phone itself and or the carrier, will be able to get that information back. You'd be surprised if there's a way to get the information back, because at the end of the day, you don't want to lose a customer. Just adding that in there as well. What is our first message we're going to pass in 2023, Brian? What do you want to share with the listeners? What's a good thought? I'm really having to sit and think about this one. Don't lose sight of the goal. You could almost do a spinoff. Forgot the name of the show. It was a thing that used to come on when I was a kid, referring to like keeping your eyes on the prize. You have to make sure that you're knowing what you're trying to do and how you're trying to go about doing it. Because whether we want to realize it or not, or want to claim it, everybody ain't trying to see you win. And that's a challenging statement to tell yourself, but it's also the raw reality that we sometimes are put in a position to accept. So I say all of that to you to say, don't lose sight of what you're trying to do and how you're trying to go about doing it. For instance, even though I have this recording done, I have a lot of things that I need to do and a lot of cleaning that I need to get done, and I need to do that more than doing this editing. The editing of this is going to be the consumption of time. The recording, I wanted to do that now, because if I do that now, I know I've got that and it's all handled. Yes, there are some people who record, edit, upload, promote all in one sitting. And if that's you, props and kudos. But my unorthodox ass, I ain't gonna sit here and lie. I kind of go with what works, especially today, because I'm going to the gym. And what'll probably happen is either I'm going to edit this evening, or knowing how tired I am from working out, I will edit in the morning because I'll be at home. So just keep your eyes on the prize, and most importantly, manage your time accordingly. We always used to hear this in school, and when we would take classes, they'd always say, use your time wisely, or, you know, make sure before you turn in your work, make sure you look over everything. That concept and ideology applies in the real world and in life too. It's so interesting, and I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna wrap it up. It's so interesting and so amazing that when I first understood and realized how intense and how beneficial it is to plan when I was a kid, I didn't think much of it. And then here it is now, like over 20 years later, and I'm like, so this is why they kept giving us those planners. Like, I know, like, kids now don't have, like, obviously in school you're not getting a planner, but at that time you gave me a planner. I used to go to town. I'm like, oh, I gotta do this, checking it off, scratching out whatever, and then making sure, like, when you were at school the next day, you were prepared. Because I don't care what anybody says, any of my friends who are teachers, if y'all listen, the pastbtpod@gmail.com. If you see, a teacher can read a mile away whether you're prepared or not for what you're working on. And they know, because and it's gonna. The thing that's interesting is they know, and it's gonna show, because students can't hide their effort that they put in or don't put in. So that is all I got for today. I hope y'all have an amazing week. I hope you have started 2023 off prosperous and positive. And until next time, this is the Past signing out. Y'all have a good one. Another episode is completed. Thank you all for listening. If you want to check out the podcast, you can go to buzzsprout.com. If you're looking to do podcasts, you can go to buzzsprout.com. To get to my podcast, you'll go to the pastbtpod.buzzsprout.com. If you're looking at getting a microphone, I always suggest getting the Blue Yeti X. That is the microphone that I use. If you're starting off and you need something more affordable, Samson Meteor, it's a worthwhile investment. And there are other microphones that are going to be simple enough. My big suggestion I tell everyone whenever looking for a microphone, be sure that your microphone has the ability to have you listen to your audio or listen to yourself as you're talking. It will make a big difference in your editing and your podcast. Also, most importantly, and I tell people this is a tip offline, but I'm giving this in the final listen or at the end of the show. Drink water while recording, and also just drink water in general. But drink water while you're recording, and the reason why, you'll be surprised. All right, see y'all on the next show.